How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we're going to be talking about autoloaders and whether they can be balanced in this current kind of state of game that we're in on World of Tanks console. So my main problem with the whole autoloaders is the just clip potential. Like being able to clip something like a mouse in the Waffle E100, I don't feel that is necessarily a very balanced thing, especially if they're loading premium, where it just basically nullifies the armor of the mouse and things like that. And that is the main point at which you'd want to play the mouse, is because you've got armor to bounce shots. But when premium rounds are managing to pen things when they're angled, like, it's just something that's been annoying me over the past couple of months. Obviously, like, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. Not all autoloaders are overpowered, such as things like the 57 Heavy. It's still got a ridiculous amount of DPM, and if you can play it right, you can get some really high damage games. But it's got them things that make it worse and just make them slightly more balanced. So obviously you haven't got the clip potential to be able to go around a corner and out trade everything by miles. So in the Waffle, you're able to go around a corner, you're going to be able to basically, if something hits you for 1,800, you've got 3,000 damage you can return. Obviously there's the situations where they come around the corner, they put one into you, and then you've got to snap your shot and hope that they don't pull back around the corner so you can actually deal some damage. But the amount of situations where something pushes around the corner, gets trapped by something on your team, where the autoloaders tend to go with, because an autoloader tends to stick around teammates where they can cover its reload and that sort of thing. Even if you're not necessarily playing with people that are your teammates or anything, platoon mates, they tend to go around other people, because you don't want to be pushing out in an autoloader, dealing 3,000 damage, and then realize, oh shit, I've got 55 seconds to reload my autoloader, and there's no one around me, and they've just gonna push me. So they tend to stick around teammates, which is kind of something that it's very hard to balance, and that's what makes autoloaders slightly overpowered, because the main kind of hindrance of an autoloader is it does have a huge reload. And yes, they can get caught out if their team dies and they're the only one left, but that's not my point. It's kind of, they have the potential at the start of a game to just ruin anything, and even if they're a skilled player that they're coming up against, premium rounds can nullify armor, such as on the mouse. If a Waffle comes firing premium like APCR on the 12.8, say goodbye to the mouse, because he's just not going to be bouncing very many unless he's really well angled and making sure that he's doing the best of his abilities to bounce the shots. And even then, some of them are going to go through anyway, and he's going to be losing at least probably 1,500 damage off his health pool if he's lucky, and that's only 3 shots from the Waffle. Or it would be just under the average amount for 3 shots from a Waffle, considering I believe it's either 520 alpha damage or 550 alpha damage on the Waffle's 12.8. I'm not necessarily a person for stats, I just know the rough alpha damage that they're going to be outputting, and therefore can make some kind of opinions of my own. Things like the 57 Heavy, they've got really nice guns, they've got huge DPM, but they do have weak spots in terms of their armor from the side. The only really strong bit of armor is the front of the hull, and then everything else is just terrible. The turrets is kind of troll bounce, but it's not going to be reliable whatsoever, and the clip potential doesn't ward off tanks. So if you come up against an equal tier heavy tank, they've basically got the advantage, because you're going to be able to put in your shots, but it's never enough to kill them 100%, because you've got 4 shots, and you're going to be dealing 400 each time, but you've only got 1,600 plus clip potential, so you're not going to be able to take out a whole tier 10 heavy tank, which is the same kind of tank that you're in terms of heavy tank, and it's got armor like, say, the M103 or whatever. Even that you can't clip in one go, so it's kind of a bit dodgy as to whether they are going to be balanced. But I feel like they've got it kind of right with the 57 Heavy, although I still think that is pretty overpowered in itself. But then you get tanks like the M41 Walker Bulldog, which is another kind of thing on its own. It's got some really, really crazy amount of damage it can deal in one clip. I think it's something around 1,700 or something stupid like that, and that is verging on like the AMX 1390, well, upwards of the MX 1390, and could even be kind of contrasted to something like the T54A1. Obviously you've got a longer time to actually put out the damage, but if you can get around the back of something, considering people don't really realise that how much clip potential you actually have, and when you come up against something like an E100 and you can get round the rear and you can make sure that you're penning your shots, you're aiming for where the actual weakest bit of the armour is and not just auto-aiming the centre of mass, then you can definitely put out that damage quite consistently. However, obviously the Walker Bulldogs has some weaknesses, that being its armour, and being able to kind of get around is one way of kind of counter arguing that it's still overpowered, because it's quite hard to hit the Walker Bulldog. But then you've got really low HP and you're going to be coming up against higher tier tanks pretty much every game. I think the one game I did have where it was like tier 7 and then tier 6s and then like 1 tier 8 on both teams. I had a stomping game, but I didn't manage to actually record it. I've got a kind of picture of me doing 3.6k damage, I believe, and 3.6k assisted in the Walker Bulldog, and I got 2,500 base XP basically. I think it was 2,480 or 79 or something like that, which is insane. Considering I didn't do that much damage in terms of what I think, but obviously people don't manage to actually play the Bulldog as well as they can do, and I'm going to be doing kind of a review of it soon, and I've managed to pick up my second mark as well, so hopefully I can get my third one relatively soon if I can work on that. But getting back to autoloaders, obviously we're talking about the variety of autoloaders, not just tanks like the Wauffentrager E100, because I will talk about that in another video. I have fucking no idea how that is still in the game, like why. They've introduced the Chieftain, which is still, in my opinion, one of the best heavy tanks in the game now, and they still haven't removed the Wauffentrager E100. I don't know if they are going to be honest with you. They're probably just farming the amount of kind of XP that gold that they're spending to get XP to get it for free, but that line is completely broken in itself. I mean, the Borsig, it's just got ridiculous camera rating, and I'm not going to get into it now. So then you've got the other autoloaders such as the AMX 5100. I feel that they've got it pretty much spot on with that. It's got decent armor, but it's not got enough to be able to reliably bounce every single kind of round. It's got a gun where the reload is stupidly long, and it's got that alpha damage where it's not too much, but it's not too little where you're only doing like 150 or something to your opponents. I think it's around 250. Don't count me on that. It might even be 320. It might be a 90 mil. Or 105 or something, but it's definitely not something where you're putting out 400 damage every single shot, I don't believe. But they've got it kind of down to a T where you can put out large amounts of damage, but the time between shells and the time it takes to reload and the armor and the mobility, they've kind of balanced that one right out. But things like the Waffle, I just can't see that they're balanced. Even the T57 Heavy and the MX50B, they can be pretty balanced in certain situations. I mean, like the amount of times where like a platoon of an AMX50B and a T57 Heavy come around the corner and you're in something with insane DPM like a Chieftain, or for its kind of type of tank, like the Chieftain's got pretty decent DPM for a heavy tank, and it's comparing that to mediums, it's just ridiculous. It's got definitely one of the best kind of guns in the game at tier 10, but it's just making sure that it's going to be balanced all round, and I don't feel that they've got that with the tier 10 autoloaders. I mean, they balanced out the Foch 155 to the fact where it kind of needs a buff. I don't feel it's that relevant anymore in the game. It's got the armor, but it just needs something to make it a bit more, get a bit more diversity in the matchmaker, because I don't actually see very many Foch 155s. Maybe that's just because the people don't want to go down the French nation, I don't know. Only it's either that the tank is not very good, or people don't want to be using the tanks from that nation. A bit like the Chinese, they're kind of not underpowered, but they aren't used because there's better options for people like that are beginners and casual players, such as the IS-7 and stuff like that. And they don't really want to be going after something like a 121 at tier 10 medium when they can go for something like an object 140, which is a bit more all-round and easier to play and not so kind of niche in the way that it can play, but it's never as good in certain situations as these tanks can be when you put them in the right situations, like the 121. So really, I feel that autoloaders can be balanced. I definitely feel that there is some way of balancing autoloaders in terms of mobility, but when you're given something like the E100 and not really seeming to giving us much information as to that they believe that it is actually under investigation as to whether they can balance it, but it's got the turret traverse, even though they gave it a nerf, but it still seems to be ridiculous. The track traverse, it's got the mobility, it's got a ridiculous gun. The turret armor is weak, but the point is that it just uses its teammates' kind of armor to be able to kind of stay alive till the end of the game and put out damage and then pull back around the corner. Its team are there to kind of solidify that corner so people can't push around and kill it. Obviously there's artillery which could, you know, hit it, but how often does that happen? It usually focuses tanks that are actually spotted, and artillery is another topic that we'll probably talk about sometime soon. It's a bit outdated obviously, and they're trying to change it on PC, but back to autoloaders. So the waffle, yet again, it's just very good in all areas, and I don't feel a tank should ever be like that. And the negatives that they do have aren't really that much of a negative, because the reload isn't that much more than if you were to kind of reload your tank 4 times to get them 750 shots. So it's a bit up in the air, to be honest with you. So I would definitely kind of expect somewhat of a nerf to the majority of autoloaders, or some way of just improving the time between shots so that they can't output that damage in such a way where you get tracked, then you get shot again and shot again and shot again straight away. But more so with something like the waffle is, I believe it has a 3 seconds in between firing with the 15cm. So if they increased it to 4 seconds, you're outputting what, 3000 damage in 16 seconds, which is actually not 16 seconds because it only reloads after you fired the first shot. So it's really 9 seconds to put out 3000 damage with the standard, and that'll be brought up to 12 seconds. So it gives people a bit more of an opportunity to get out of the way of them shots and actually track, kind of repair their tracks before they get tracked again and again and again, and then they're dead. So that's a way that I feel that they could kind of balance it out, and also just make the turret traverse pretty shit, like really quite bad for something like an autoloader, or just decrease the accuracy slightly so they can't track you instantly and be able to perfectly track you every single time, and give a bit more RNG to them. Obviously that's quite controversial, and considering I actually have a waffle, I just want the Gorilla 15, to be honest with you. And this has kind of gone into a waffle overpowered video, but I don't want it to be that. I kind of want it to be more of a discussion about autoloaders and whether they can actually ever be balanced in World of Tanks, and the state of play that is currently at in World of Tanks console. So my main kind of question is that are they actually going to be starting to do some kind of changes? Obviously they've got the super test, they've got a test server that they run like independently, and but they don't seem to be taking that much feedback from players, and I think that's probably because most players' opinions are all joined together and muddled up, because people just take opinions from each other and therefore not really making their own assumptions and guidelines as to what their opinions are themselves. So it kind of gets a bit subjective as to what tanks are actually overpowered. So when I talk about the waffle, that's my own opinion. You can have different opinions. You can say it's not actually overpowered, give me some reasons, and then I'll think, oh right, okay, so it's actually more balanced in that way, but then it's still somewhat unbalanced in another way. So, and that's with the 57 heavy. It's got a ridiculous DPM for a heavy tank, and it's just got that nice DPM advantage over someone when you come around the corner. And it's really just trying to work out like the community's kind of concept on what autoloaders are, and I just wanted to make a video really discussing what I believe, and I wanted to find out what your guys' actual opinions are. So be sure to leave them in the comment section below, or I believe I'll probably post it on a forum somewhere. So if you're on the forums, feel free to give me a long kind of answer as to what you believe. Obviously I don't really mind, I can quite easily kind of talk to you about it, give my opinions a bit more in detail if you need to or want to know them. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is the end of the video. Make sure to answer the question above and just give me some feedback at the end of the video, and you can always hit that one of the 2 videos that I'll be showing. There's a similar one, it's kind of like a joke, the waffle kind of Unicum guide or something should be up there, and also just my last video that I did on my channel. So make sure to hit that like button if you did like it, and subscribe for more content. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.